welcome to the channel. It's Kay, and in today's swatch sesh I'm featuring my favorite special effects black nail polishes that I'm really actually excited about because I've been wanting to make this type of video for a while. I was just having a hard time finding a good time to post it because I'm not gonna post this type of video in spring, right? That wouldn't make any sense. But now that we're in spooky season, I was like, yes, I finally get to make like my favorite blacks type of video. So if you missed the pumpkin guy, do not miss him any longer, my friend, because he is back and he has been fed the polishes. Let me not drop them because they don't have their cartons. And I know it looks really empty in there because the polishes don't have their cartons, but there's actually a really good amount of polishes in here, and I think I'm even missing one or two. So with that, let's get to digging and picking and swatching these. First up in today's sesh is Deep Space by Poparazzi. For those of you who may not know, Poparazzi is a pharmacy brand with some pretty cool stuff, and it's actually wild to me that in my search for a plain black polish with holo that you would think an indie would carry, I ended up finding the perfect one at a pharmacy. So with Deep Space, we have a black base that has a sheerness to it, which does help those elements pop, those elements being holo glitters, which even though they're small in size, they're not micro. You can definitely extend your arm out and look at your mani and clearly see those rainbow pops. My end result here only has 2 coats, and check out the generous amount of holo in there. Someone had a loose hand or a love for holo at Poparazzi because the nail won't stop glistening, you guys. The holo is stalking me with those rainbow pops, even though at the end of the day, it's a pretty simple formula, but in my opinion, they executed it perfectly and it made my favorites list. Back to the pumpkin, and here we have a Black Veil by Dany Vianna. Alright, for some reason, I feel like glam grunge is a perfect way to describe the aesthetical vibe that Black Veil gives off. It starts off with a black jelly base that's seasoned with black elements in irregular sizes, but we also have a nice dash of holo elements also in irregular sizes. Now, just a heads up that this second coat is going to be my final one because I don't want to lose sight of my nail line, and as I apply that second coat, you might start agreeing or disagreeing with me that this has a little bit of a grungy vibe. Those black specks give it a little bit of a messy touch. It looks like disheveled a bit, but then throw in some sparkle and some glam with those holos scattered across the nail. Just makes for one of those manicures that I am constantly taking a peek at. Here we go with our next pick, Suit and Sugar by Clionadh Cosmetics. As I swatch, I'll tell you the story of how I got this one. I originally saw it being promoted for an HHC event last year, and love at first sight, okay? This was like my type of polish. But then I started seeing pictures from other swatchers, and for some reason I began to fall out of love with it. I didn't know if I would like the end result, but then I was also telling myself, of course you will. Well, the HHC event passed and I didn't buy it because the whole time I couldn't sort my feelings out. So fast forward some months later and I end up on eBay. I was scrolling through the seller's items and this one pops up, and I reacted the same way I did when I saw this polish for the first time. I loved it again. So that time I bought the thing and I do not regret it. The one thing though that is weird about this polish is the first application because it kind of drags all of the elements with it. It has texture too, so this needs a little bit of glitter grabber and definitely a thick base coat. Once you do that, it will absolutely reward you with a little color show. It does pop in pink and greens and oranges, which I also think are just great colors for the spooky season. Back to picking, and this is Leather Black by Anasui. This next polish's finish is in its name because although Leather Black starts off looking like a plain black polish, it actually dries down with a texture that is supposed to resemble leather. I will let you be the judge of that though. Regardless, I think that the overall effect is pretty edgy and unique. It's just something that I personally hadn't seen in a black polish. Take a look for yourself. Check out that texture, and by the way, this is after one coat. Do you think this actually looks like leather? Because someone on TikTok said it looks like polish when you ruin it, and I mean, they're not completely wrong. I should mention that this polish is infused with fresh tea rose, so it does have a pretty strong scent to it that honestly you may or may not like. Next up is gonna be Delirium by Penelope Luz. If you watched my latest Manny recap video, you might remember the story of Delirium and how all of its charges were dropped in my D-Stash trials. This is a polish that was found not guilty of any crimes, and at this point, you're probably starting to see why. It starts off with a blackened jelly-like base that is over seasoned in a good way with all of these amazing glitter elements, including holo. The end result here is after 2 coats, which I do think is necessary to deepen up that base. And I'll warn you that you cannot skip the glitter grabber and the thickest of top coats with Delirium if you want to get maximum sparkle benefits. Our next polish is going to be Cracked Taco Shell by Holo Taco. This is another polish in the video that might not have special effects elements wise. The special effect is related more to what happens when it dries down. And now that I am done applying it over a base coat, I'll speed up the video so that you can see the transformation. Notice how that liquid tightens up over the nail plate, creating these really random abstract looking tears all over. The right side of my nail has less cracks because I applied a thicker coat of polish there, so just keep that in mind during application. I'm not sure if other people would consider this one to be a special effects type of polish, but I do, since it is a special type of visual effect that is definitely not present in all nail polish. It's almost like instant nail art or just like a nail art hack because it does all of the work for you. Here we go with our next pick, Boo Bitch by Loud. RIP to that ghosty that slid off there. So I did flavor the pumpkin with 1 nail seasoning, and even though Loud mixed this polish, this is actually a custom polish from the Loud Lounge. So what we have here is a clear base with black hollow glitters, opalescent flakes, and ghost shape glitters. I didn't actually catch a ghosty during application, but I still wanted to show you what that looks like, so I fished one out. Even though personally I'm actually not a fan of these cartoonish type of glitters, but I do love all that black pepper glitter seasoning behind it, and this was actually so easy to apply, guys. I barely did any dabbing or placement, which makes things so much easier. Now keep in mind with these big glitters like the ghosty one, those might not flatten out completely on your nail even after top coat, depending on where it lands on your nail, right? But the glitters will absolutely smoothen out after some glitter grabber and that top coat. The next polish is going to be Haunted Houses by Zombie Claw. Here we have Haunted Houses, a very simple but very cool looking polish. So starting from the ground up, we have a black jelly-like base filled with black flakies that are irregular in size. Now, I do have an application tip for this one. Thinner coats are best, and the reason why is that the flakies could disappear. You might end up with a really blackened end result if you pile on thick coats of this polish, and then at that point you lose sight of the flakies, which just takes away the fun. So this is my end result after those two thin coats where you can clearly catch sight of everything, right? The flakies, the base, the nail line. So that's just a tip if you want it to look like this. And remember when I said that this one was pretty simple, right? We don't have any crazy or super experimental formulation, but it's pretty cool to look at. Personally, I think it's a great option to have in your black stash. We are back for the last one. This is The Evil Dead by Cadillacquer. This is a polish that was released during September 2024's polish pickup event, and I feel like I'm on the verge of cheating here because there's actually nothing black about this polish except for the black and teal base. But the thing is, the end result looks so blackened that it technically just looks black, so I let it sneak into this video. Aside from that, you're likely seeing those beautiful iridescent flakies that shift from pink tones to purple tones, and then of course those matte yellow hex glitters, which add the perfect Halloween touch. Now remember when I said it almost looks black? You can see that more clearly here. It's a very blackened jelly-like base, but notice how we get some pops of blue and even orange from those flakies as you get into the extreme angles. They're pretty dynamic and throw off a nice range of colors. So yeah, overall, not a true black, but basically a black that I just couldn't leave out. tldl, these are my favorite special effects black nail polishes, and one in a blackened costume. Some do have a little bit more sparkle than others, but I think all of them have some type of special visual effect one way or another, and I also think these would work well for Halloween. So hopefully you can get double use out of this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the swatches, and I will see you on the new. Bye-bye.